Double Doinkers Fantasy Football Show with Nick Meyer and Willie J. This week we bring you the week 16 picks, week 15 recap, draft class players you want to watch, and the injury list from Hades. See, I almost said the bad word right there, guys. So we're all looking. I apologize to the kids preemptively. What's up, Willie? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm narrowly in the final four of my main league and the final four of my work league. Not feeling super great with the Devontae Adams injury. I have him in both my leagues, so it's not looking great. But I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling like anything can happen, and I have the Texans defense this week, so I'm really feeling like anything can happen.
So I mean, okay, remember this, right? In one league where I outscored, I went against Kyle Pitts in one league, and so like that's kind of just was pretty much the end of it. I had just really no shot after going against Kyle Pitts on the Thursday night game, and my point of bringing that up right now is twofold. So first off, anything can happen. You can have Kyle Pitts drop 50 points, and then you just win the week. Now it doesn't have to be Kyle Pitts. Texas defense this week.
Yeah,
I know it's crazy to think a defense could drop 35 points, but if there's any defense that could do it against any team that could give it up, this is certainly the perfect combination of things happening.
it's an unstoppable force versus a very movable object.
The object that wants nothing more than to move. It has already started like inching towards the door, like, please let's go. And then in the other league, when you have two benched players that would want it for you versus, having Tyler Ward and Quinshon Judkins in your starting lineup. So I'm just gonna say this. I'm out in 2 of 3 leagues. The third league is one that doesn't have any money attached, so it's the worst league to stay in still. And I just want to say I've just been blasting the Untitled song by Simple Plan and The Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan and The Reason by Hoobastank over and over again, and then like crying and looking at my family really sad with my eyes full of tears, and they're just like, "What's wrong, Dad?" And I'm like, "I failed you."
I would also recommend "I'm Just a Kid" by Simple Plan.
Okay.
That's a very good. It describes the feeling of angst you have as a kid and after losing at fantasy sports. So
yeah, it's not great. It's like the full on pity party from like you can't really feel that much pity. I'm happy I made it to the playoffs because it made the season not a wash, but like, come on. You can't go against Kyle Pitts in the playoff first round. This guy who everyone's been waiting 4 years to do anything, and then he gets a year's worth of points in one game.
do you think it was better or worse than it was? It just got out of the way on Thursday.
For that one, it was better.
Yeah.
So to paint a picture, on Monday night, I had DK Metcalf versus Tyler Warren, Jalen Warren, the Warren that showed up a little bit more.
Okay.
And I was down by 14 points. So as you can imagine, it got disgustingly close for a minute.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did Jalen Warren have was he the main guy? Was it not a Gainwell game? I kind of didn't pay attention to that game.
It was a little bit of both. Miami Dolphins did a really good job at stopping the run. They ended up giving a rushing touchdown up for the first time in 5 games, but it was to Hayward, right? So it doesn't really count. It was a weird like tush push to a tight end.
Him and then Jonnu Smith had a rushing touchdown too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't feel like it counts much. And of course, here we are with Arthur Smith doing weird Arthur Smith stuff.
Arthur Smith terrorism. Not even fantasy terrorism, I think just terrorism.
Just terrorism in general. I think that someone should check his signal chats. I'm not going to get into it, but someone really should. So anyways, I've just been in self-pity party. So please, listeners, if you listen to this later, do understand if I seem a little out of it. It's because, as you can imagine, with DK Metcalf just not doing anything for a quarter and a half at the end of the game when I needed like 5 points and I would have won, I just turned off football for a little bit. I haven't looked at it very much. I did watch these games this week, but I stopped, and I will come back because it's for the listeners. Oh, but it hurts.
At least you can enjoy the last week and then the actual playoffs, perhaps, without any stress.
I have one team that's in the fantasy footballers Megalo Bowl, and I'm in the top 1,500, so that feels good.
Okay.
Maybe there'll be something there. Probably not. I don't even know what you win. Nothing.
It's pride. More
Pride,
pride.
exactly. I'll be like, I beat some random strangers in some fantasy podcast league.
Here's the thing. I don't know if it exists, and if it doesn't, I think it should
Mhm.
be a thing, and I want to take full credit for it.
Okay.
I wonder if there are leagues that are specifically draft at the beginning of January and then just draft players that are in the playoffs.
I think so. I think like on Underdog and whatever fantasy betting sites you can do this where you draft players in the playoffs, and if they lose, you just don't get points for that position.
Okay, I like
So
that.
it's like it's a mixture of things like betting who can win plus who's going to be the good player on each team.
Okay, huh? Okay,
Um,
I might try and join something like that.
yeah, really. I mean, it's good. It's one of these things. Everyone who's in my position has something that they can look back on and be like, "This is what made the season a lot harder than it was before," right? So whatever, we're all here. But if you're listening, I'm here with you.
Yeah.
Um, it just in a world of hurt. And if you are in the situation like I am and you're listening, first, kudos to you for jumping right back on the wagon. Second off, you might already be looking towards next season. I know I'm thinking a lot about next season as a fantasy football player and a Raiders fan. So this week we're going to bring to you a segment that talks a lot about next season because Willie here, I don't want to call him a draft guru because I think that might be underselling him a little bit, but he knows a lot about this next year's class. So Willie, I'm going to let you take us away on this conversation. We're going to talk about the 2026 class, right? That's what.
2020, yeah, 2026 draft class.
Mhm.
We're at the point now where the transfer portal is open or about to open, and we have some players deciding if they're going to come back to school or declare. I believe there's only about 4 or 5 players on my list here that have officially declared, but all of them are very, very likely. Um, I'm going to be going over quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and a tight end.
Cool.
This is a little bit weak, a little bit of a weak offensive draft on paper. The wide receivers are really where it's at. The other 3 positions, not so much, but there's interesting guys to talk about all around. Um, and I do want to give a shout out. I really enjoy watching NFL mock drafts on YouTube. I want to give a shout out to Bengal and Broshmo. They're both just really well versed in college sports and the NFL. And they do them just for fun. But the reason I like them so much is because they talk about prospects. So it's a mock draft, hypothetical, but they specifically go into prospects and why they would fit with each team. So by like watching and listening to their content, I've got an idea of who these players are, and then also what teams drafting in the first round are going to have skill positions of need that will be fantasy relevant. So that's what I'm excited to talk about. Um,
Wonderful,
I,
wonderful. Are you gonna like project rounds on for them here, or are you gonna just talk about the prospects themselves?
um, Pretty much everyone I'm talking about, with the exception of some of the running backs, are projected first round picks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So let's get into the quarterbacks. I'm going to start here by mentioning some of the teams that are very likely to draft a quarterback in the first round. This quarterback draft class isn't very deep. There are 2 guys that are projected top 5, and there's a bit of a fall off. It's been compared to the Jared Goff Carson Wentz draft in 2016, and it also reminds me a bit of even the year before last, where you had all those guys in the first round and then nobody until Spencer Rattler in round 5. Like there's 2 main guys. The rest there's not very many, but
Mhm.
I do want to talk about the teams in order of most likely to draft a QB to least likely. I think there's 2 clear teams here. It's the Jets and the Raiders. Um, so this could work out where one of those 2 teams just has a number 1 pick. But if a team like the Giants or the Titans have a number 1 pick, uh, one of those teams is very, very, very likely to just trade back with either the Jets or the Raiders. So
Yeah, yeah.
something to watch there. Both these teams need quarterbacks. Both these teams, with the Jets, they have a great O line that's will definitely help a young quarterback, and then the Raiders have a great skill position set that could definitely help a young quarterback. So there's things to get excited about there. The other teams are the Browns. I think the Browns would have to lose out in order to get one of these players, but they have extra picks from the Travis Hunter trade back
Yeah, that's
last year.
true.
So
Mhm.
there's a possibility there. And the other three I want to mention real quick are the Cardinals, Dolphins, and Rams. The Rams in particular are because they had the Falcons first round pick. Um, and it's, the GM Les Snead has kind of been one of those, screw them picks kind of guy. So I can see him drafting a player pretty high, but it depends. The only other team in the first round that could potentially draft one would be the Steelers, but I don't see them trading up high enough to get one. So
Yeah, the Steelers feel like a prime Kyler Murray destination at this point.
it really does.
Yeah.
Or a prime Tua. I think I would lean Kyler though because of Arthur Smith running it.
Yeah, and to his cold weather issues, I really think that they're gonna think about that in Pennsylvania.
I mean, Kyler, I guess we haven't seen it on the NFL stage, but he's only played, as a starter in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arizona. But I guess he doesn't have the same, like, Cardinals do better than Dolphins in the snow, but definitely also regional. It's hard to say.
I could see Kyler running an Arthur Smith offense pretty well because he can move a lot more. Like I we haven't necessarily seen big issues with the offense in Pittsburgh. Like they're there, but I
It's
think that a mobile quarterback would help him out a little bit.
I mean, Kyler has a higher floor than Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, or excuse me, higher ceiling than Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, and Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, 40-year-old Big Ben, like any Steelers QB this decade. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think I think it's very likely.
All right,
Um,
hit us up with these names. Who you got? Who you got?
okay, so I think my personal number one is actually Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. He started out at Cal, played there a couple years, was a big time transfer portal quarterback this past college offseason, transfers to Indiana, has an incredible season. Indiana, Kurt Signetti have completely turned around the program. He's the head coach. Um, and he just won the Heisman. His Heisman speech is really adorable. I would go watch it. He's very eccentric, very endearing, and he just seems like an all around really good guy. Um, his biggest pro comp is Jared Goff, at least from what I've seen. He's one of those players that he's not by any means a mobile quarterback, but he can score rushing touchdowns. He can do QB sneaks. He can use his legs if he needs to. But his just his intelligence in the pocket and just his football IQ was really really high. So he's the kind of I think he's the kind of QB that's never going to be like top 5 of the league good, but he's could solidly be in the top 10 like a Jared Goff.
And now, do you think so with Jared Goff, I remember one of the big knocks coming out of the draft was, and this is going to be funny because it's the same thing with CJ Stroud, and it's kind of fallen off now, but it was like his Wonder League score. Like Jared Goff had one of the worst Wonder League scores.
Yeah.
Like is Fernando Mendoza just Jared Goff but with a high Wonder League score? Is that what I'm hearing?
So initially he committed to Yale, so I'm pretty sure he's going to score high one.
If you slam Jared Goff and Ryan Fitzpatrick together, this is who you get.
Honestly, I could see it. I think it's his play style. That's why I see him compared to Jared Goff the most. I don't know. I think you could very well say that. I think so both him and the next quarterback, we're gonna figure out a lot more based on the college football playoffs and how they perform there. So that will probably determine who goes one, who goes two.
Yeah.
The other guy is Dante Moore out of Oregon. There have been some rumors of him returning to school, which I find to be really, really misguided.
Oh
I
man,
get
if you return to school and you're like set to be a top 5 draft pick, you can't do that. That's so much
ex-
money you're leaving on the table.
and I'm a Ducks fan, so I would like him to return. But anyone who's a Ducks fan is saying, well, the nil money's there, like he's going to get a huge payday. Like, yeah, he could, but if he declares and is a top 5 pick, he's going to get like 5 times that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does not compare at all. Um, Dante Moore is a lot different than Mendoza. He is much more of a mobile quarterback. He is a really good pocket passer. He's been considered a 5 star, I think, since he was a junior in high school.
Okay.
And he originally started at Oregon, flipped to Cal. I believe started at Cal a bit his freshman year. Now he's a junior, and this is his first year starting in a good offense. So he's very inexperienced, but he just has a lot of NFL intangibles. And I think if he goes to a team like the Jets, which have a good O line, I could see him really thriving there as much as a Jets quarterback could, because he'd be getting a lot of rushing upside with a good O line. I I don't think I've heard the comp of Justin Fields is that much, but based on what I've seen, I could see him kind of having a similar role in the NFL just because he can do so much with his legs. He could
That's a
almost.
scary comp if you're in New York, though, right now, especially.
I know, I know. I think in terms of fantasy, that's what I like when I look at Dante Moore, just because he's Justin Fields, but a much better pocket passer.
Okay.
Um, I think I've also read a couple Kyler comparisons. I don't really see that as much, but again, rushing quarterback, I think he could really be good in fantasy. I think just the dust will settle. We'll know where they will go, but just off the rip, I think Dante Moore is the fantasy quarterback you want to target more, just for that rushing upside.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I will say one thing is that if Dante Moore somehow ends up on the Raiders, that would be 3 of the starting QBs in the AFC West,
Yep.
Ducks QBs. And I love the idea of that just simply because it's so
Oh,
bananas.
I got an idea.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk about it. Tears his ACL. They need a stopgap starter for the beginning of the year.
Bring
Marcus
in
Mariota.
Mariota, and then
Yep.
you have 4 Ducks is the AFC West, and,
Yep.
I mean, you just can't think of a cooler
That's
thing if you're from Eugene.
so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I would love that.
It's like, okay, so, this is a very specific niche that probably no one who's listening to this is gonna fit into, but if you are from Eugene, right, there is, like, this contingency, like, wherever a quarterback from the Ducks is, the fans now, they just exist. So the Broncos now have, everyone wearing Bo Nix jerseys, but they still have the Chargers with the Herbert jerseys. If you could
Mhm.
get all 4 AFC West teams to start a Ducks quarterback, the civil war that would happen between everyone would be amazing.
Maybe,
Because
yeah.
for me, I think the Raiders are that one team that everyone just kinda hates. They're not good, don't get me wrong, but, like, the Broncos fans, I know they hate them. The Chiefs fans, I know they hate them.
Yeah.
Chargers don't count, guys. Like, it just
There's not
you never have.
there's not enough fans.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so, like, it would be fun. I hope it happens for that one reason is that it would be fun.
My early prediction for 2 reasons. One, I think that the Raiders are gonna win just enough games to get out of picking number 1. And 2, the Jets have the draft ammo from the Sauce and Quinnen Williams trade to very easily trade up to number 1. So,
Yeah.
my early prediction is Mendoza to the Jets, Moore to the Raiders.
See, here's my thought, and call me crazy for this one. If the Raiders get number 1 and the Jets have, like, number 2, I would say the Raiders should trade down, take more, take that extra trade ammo, still get the top QB. Like, threaten that whoever they're gonna take is the one player you want, whoever they're sending out smoke screens, like, "Trade up."
I mean, if they like both quarterbacks enough equally, that would make a lot of sense. Um, I think that Mendoza definitely is a favorite to go number 1 now, but if the Ducks win the college football playoff, I think we'd see that narrative flip.
Mhm. But plus running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You always you never hear about them until all of a sudden the combine starts, and everyone's like, "Wow, these guys, wow, they're so good." Yeah. It's like the Anthony Richardson ascendancy, you know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah.
wasn't there, and then he was there, and then he
Yeah,
was a top 10.
that's when he ascended was in the combine, so yeah, it
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. Especially for very athletic guys like a Dante Moore.
Are there any other quarterbacks that we should be looking out for? Because, like, last year, we didn't hear much about Jackson Dart, but then this year, you see Jackson Dart really flourishing as far as fantasy goes.
The
Is there Jackson Dart out there?
Yeah, definitely. The Jackson Dart of this class, and I should have clarified. There is another quarterback that if he does declare, will probably go late first.
Mhm.
And that's Ty Simpson out of Alabama.
Okay.
He has an advantage because Alabama is, for now at least, in the college football playoff. He started out the first half of the season, he was the Heisman front runner, at least for a couple weeks there, and he really fell off the last few weeks, so his draft stock has tanked. But if he comes out, has a great college football playoff, I think he probably will declare for the draft. If he does not, I think he probably returns to Alabama or transfers. Apart from that, there's some little names. A lot of guys that are eligible are returning to school though. I think the biggest name I can think of, I like Sawyer Robinson out of Baylor, and I like Talon Green out of Arkansas, but it's not a whole lot of names.
Okay, that's fair. Um, okay, cool. I think I don't have a lot to add with the quarterbacks. This is the we let Willie shine section. So, what about you? You want to go to running backs next?
Let's go. Yeah, let's go to running backs. The running back class. I'm much more excited about the teams drafting running backs than I am the running backs themselves. And I say that because this class is pretty weak, not in just comparison to last class, but in general, there's really not a whole lot of high upside guys, with the exception of one. I'm going to talk about four teams though that I think, if a running back is drafted in the first two rounds by one of these teams, they are very likely to be very fantasy relevant. Um, I think easily the number one team here would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, makes sense.
I
They
mean, they're
can't keep
running.
running out Kareem Hunt. They can't keep doing that.
No, and I think Pacheco is a free agent, and there's no way he's getting paid. So they are, and and even if they go after a Brees Hall, I think that also makes Brees Hall very fantasy
Yep.
relevant. If they go after Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, starting running back for the Chiefs week 1 of next year, you will want to have drafted. I think I can say that bar none.
It's gonna almost assuredly be better. Okay, wait, but let me ask you this:
Yeah,
if the starting running back ends up being Brashard Smith, backed up by like Audric Estimes of the world,
and you're probably going to want to draft Patrick Mahomes, even
okay,
with ACL.
fair.
um, so Chiefs, Vikings are number 2. I think they got another year of Jordan, whatever. I don't remember his name actually.
Jordan
Mason.
Jordan Mason.
I'll leave it at that. The Cowboys. I think that if they don't bring Javonte Williams back, they're going to have to get a running back. So they'll be very fantasy relevant, like we've seen this year. And then the last team I think I haven't seen talked about as much, but I think could definitely happen, is the Titans. And this
Okay.
is especially if the Titans decide to, if they hire an offensive minded coach that really wants to emphasize the run, I think that they would be a team to do it because, see, Richard is a truth. We'll see. I think they would be a team to do it because I mean, the running back is a big part. Has been historically a big part of the Titans and their offense. So I think if they draft a really good running back in the first two rounds, that's something to look at. And it also is, do you believe in the Titans offense? We'll see, but
It's so hard to get a read on it because they fired their head coach. It's just like, was the coaching the issue? Because it hasn't gotten better, but it wouldn't get much better.
yeah,
Um, or is there larger, more systemic issues happening here? The defense clearly needs shored up. I would imagine that the Titans are going to draft defense, but I've been wrong about this before.
I
Um,
would agree. I think they're going to go defense wide receiver in the first two rounds.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm gonna throw out this question since we have a question real quick. KC or Saints DST this week?
KC versus the Titans.
The KC
Yeah.
versus the Titans. The Saints versus Jets.
Um.
It's hard because it's pretty even. So you'll have two offenses that, with the Patrick Mahomes injury, are not likely to be able to move the ball very well.
Yeah.
I would go with the Saints personally because I think the Saints are going to be able to control the time of possession more.
They've sneakily gotten pretty good on both sides of the ball the past few weeks. I feel like there's actually there's some hope there, and that the chemistry is apparent. And they've also gotten quite a few takeaways. And as stout as the Chiefs' defense has been at times, I don't really hear much about them getting takeaways in the same way the Saints and
hmm
everything
hmm
do. So
It's been a different sort of year. They've gone negative more often. I just also, with, if Brady Cook is still the starter,
yeah,
take advantage of it. That wasn't great. Enjoy it. I yeah, I'm on Saints side personally.
me too.
Sorry, now you can continue on.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. So there is only four running backs I want to talk about because I've done research, and it really seems like these are the only four that I've routinely seen mocked or even talked about in the first couple rounds. So the first one is the big one, the very big one, and that's Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. He was a Heisman finalist this past year. He's been one of the best running backs in college 3 years straight. Um, this is the kind of situation where he is going to be drafted around that Bijan, Gibbs, Ashton level. He's
Okay.
not quite as propped up with hype as Bijan or Ashton was, but he's definitely around the same, if not more than Gibbs was. So he is a near lock to go top 15, if not top 10 or top 5. Um, so of all the teams I mentioned, I think there's one clear, obvious choice here. If Jeremiah Love goes to the Chiefs, he will be a first round pick in fantasy next year.
Okay.
I can say that confidently because of the hype, because of the need, and because of the 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 Chiefs inevitably having to rely on the run. And if they have a guy like Love, if they draft a guy like Love, he's going to be getting a ton of carries. That's I can just say that. Regardless, Jeremiah Love will go in the first 2 rounds of fantasy next year. He is a beast. He's going to be very hyped up. Does not matter which team he goes to. He's going to be relevant.
I just, for narrative's sake, I would love if he somehow went to the Packers, so J Love would hand off to J Love.
I do love that. There's another J Love. There's it's the safety on the Seahawks, Julian Love.
See, they got to get them all together,
They
and the
do.
Seahawks Packers have some weird connection thing. So
J Love to J Love.
J Love to J Love, and then J Love on the defense.
I
Like,
think the Packers not having a first round pick. I think if they trade their best players to another team and don't have a first round pick next year and take Jeremiah Love, I would like that.
it would probably say things about Josh Jacobs, but it's so much fun. The idea of it won't happen. I'm almost certain of it, but
In Oregon, there's Dante Moore throwing to DeCorian Moore, so it's D Moore to D Moore.
see, that's wonderful too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why it works.
It
It's
makes
rocket science.
it
You just
is.
get
Yeah.
people with the same name, and there's like an instant chemistry. They're like, "Oh, you've gone through most of the same things I've gone through."
If you look at a quarterback and he's looking downfield, who's he going to throw to most likely? He's going to be thrown to his name. He sees his name like that's automatic.
What do you like to hear more than your name? Nothing. That's the truth of it, right? So, okay. You can go on.
So he's really the exciting one. Jadarian Price, who is also a Notre Dame running back, is I think a sneaky player to watch because he's really produced at when he's been on the field at Notre Dame, but he's the RB2 there. So if he goes into say the Cowboys take Jadarian Price in the second round, he's going into an RB1 situation where he's not had that opportunity to produce, but he's produced at a high level of an RB2 situation. So it almost makes me want to say that it would be better for him to go to a committee, but I think basically what I'm saying, I think we haven't seen his upside in college, and that could very well happen in the NFL. The only other two names I'm really excited about is Jonah Coleman out of Washington. He was a projected second round pick this past NFL draft, or second, third round. He ended up going back to school because, again, the running back class was pretty loaded. I think he's been injured, so his draft stock has fallen a little bit, but he looks really good. And then the last one I've seen a lot about is Justin Haynes out of Michigan.
Okay.
It's hard for me to get excited about Michigan QBs in the NFL, though. It really is.
It
They're
hasn't been
always been
working
amazing.
lately.
There's Zach Charbonnet, Blake Corum, the first two that come to mind, and they're both in committees. So hard to get excited.
Yeah. It's understandable. Although, well, neither here nor there. Okay. So, do you have any like outside of Love? Do you have any comps for the top three players as far as play style goes?
Um, okay, I think well first I want to emphasize about Jeremiah Love that he's also a really great pass catcher. So he's got that going for him. That's part of why he's projected first round. Um, the other players, I believe, the only highlights I've seen of them really have been rushing highlights. I haven't been paying attention to their stats, but it really feels like at this point, if you are a running back going into the NFL, if you're getting drafted the first 2 rounds, you are a pass catching back. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's just the narrative that's kind of happened, and it makes sense. Having that upside is essential if to stand out essentially. So I would assume they all have at least some upside in the pass game. There's one other running back I wanted to mention, and I don't remember his name. And I want to mention to him just because I saw a couple of highlights, and I was like, all right, if this guy declares, I want to mention him on the pod because he looks awesome. Okay, and that's Robert Henry Jr. out of UTSA. I heard his name. I looked up a couple clips, and he just looks awesome.
That is the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Bingo. So I want to throw his name out there. There is
He,
quite a few younger running backs in next year's class to get excited about too.
and of course, we have all of the running backs from this year's class becoming second year backs. They haven't fallen off the face of the earth. Like the Jadon Blues that were out there, uh, like
Caleb Johnson, maybe.
maybe. I think Arthur Smith is going to have an issue with Caleb Johnson no matter what happens. Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers are match made in heaven because they get weird grudges, and that's just who they are. Um, maybe I'm being unfair to someone. I don't know. It's those two. They deserve every bit of it.
They deserve each other, really.
They really do. They really do. I won't derail talk about watching Aaron Rodgers play football and how unhappy he looks all the time. So, okay, perfect. So let's move on to wide receivers.
So wide receivers are definitely the cream of the crop of the upcoming offensive class. I do want to do a little side note. In my dynasty league, I've traded at least one of my first round picks, or I guess just my first round. I've traded a few picks in this upcoming draft to 2027 because on paper, at least, the 2027 draft is loaded with offensive talent at every position. So in my dynasty league, I'm excited to draft. The year after next is less so this year, but there's still some really good names coming up, particularly with wide receivers. Okay, first I do want to mention the teams. If the teams in the first round that are looking at receivers, and if they do take a receiver in the first round, that receiver will very likely be fantasy relevant. I think the first one to look at, just because I've seen it projected the most, is the Giants taking a wide receiver 2 in the top 10. There's one guy in particular that I think makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, and I'll talk about him in a second. The other is the Browns taking a wide receiver in the top 10. Which makes sense. I mean, not a great offense, but they don't have anyone really reliable there besides Harold Fannin. I think the Titans in the first 2 round and the Commanders in the first 2 rounds also. I think Debo's a free agent. Scary Terry is often injured, or they just need more talent there. And I think the Commanders are so inept on defense that if they use a high pick on a wide receiver, they really like that wide receiver, and I think that's going to make him fantasy relevant. And then, of course, I think just as we've seen recently, 3 teams that have had wide receivers mocked to them and have not taken them. Steelers, Bills, and Broncos. I feel like we've been talking about getting them a wide receiver 1 for years now. And they're always, potential to take one. But we'll see.
Gosh, the Bills would be awesome if they finally just did it and it was someone who actually worked.
Even Keon Coleman, he was not like a super high touted name going into the draft, and he got taken at the beginning of the second before Ladd McConkey. So, all right.
I think they know that they're bad at it. I think that's why they stay out of it. They're like, we don't know how to evaluate this talent.
Yeah, I mean, like the Bears, I think are another team. I mean, besides Rome and Luther, I guess new regime, but like Bears have never historically been great at drafting receivers high, at least.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the receiver they drafted really high. Oh yeah, I do. Sammy Watkins.
The
And
Bills,
all the hype around Sammy Watkins, and then it's
Sammy
just kind of
Watkins.
not playing out.
He like had the career of like a perfect wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And he was taking like the top 5 picks. That's not what you wanted, but
No, I think he was like talking to historically great Bills receivers and asking for them to, or every time you hear someone talk about Joe Theismann, and they're like, yeah, he talked to Joe Theismann and he got his well wishes. You're like, holy cow, Joe Theismann is still alive and giving people well wishes. This is amazing. And then you don't pan out. They're probably like, enough of that. Don't bother Joe anymore.
yeah, don't stop. Unfortunately, Sammy Watkins, if you look at his hype coming into the draft and how he produced, it's definitely early. But I do kind of see Marvin Harrison Jr. mirroring that disconnect between this huge hype and the actual performance.
This is one of those things. When I think on this podcast I talked about when Sammy Watkins got hurt, like before the appendectomy that he had. I think it was an appendectomy, the emergency surgery. But before that, when he like got hurt and was out for the game, and I was like, it just looked like he didn't want to play anymore.
Oh, what you mean, Marvin Harrison?
That is what I mean. Yes,
I was
exactly.
like, Sammy had an appendectomy too. Whoa, okay. I
It's way too similar. The exact same week of his career. No, okay. I am talking about Marvin Harrison. So when Marvin Harrison got hurt, and this is unfair to Marvin, I'm going to be 100% honest with that. But it looked like he just didn't want to play. Like he just like lied down. He's like, I'm over this. Get me out of here. And they're like, just call it whatever you want. I'm done. Uh, and since then, he hasn't really played much.
him and Kyler both just seem like they hate it there, and I don't know if it's because of their talent or like I want to say something's in the water. They don't care, but Trey McBride's the best tight end in football, and he loves it there. Clearly, he gives it his all every single week. So I don't
Mhm.
know if it's a Kyler and Marvin thing, if it's a Cardinals thing. I,
Maybe like Kyler and Marvin hate each other desperately, and the funny part is now that the hate has gotten so far that neither of them are playing, so they're actually just avoiding each other so hard that they're just in the locker room together all the time. It'd
that
be
lack
like a really awkward episode of The Office or something, you know?
the lack of chemistry is there, and I think that I wouldn't hate the Cardinals rolling with Jacoby Brissett next year. I mean, it sounds awful, but if you I don't know if you draft like a state, say you take like a Ty Simpson in round 2, and then just roll Jacoby, um, it makes more sense than paying Kyler in every year. I don't know.
It's hard because I think the issue is if Jacoby Brissett starts caring, he falls apart.
It's true.
You know, because we saw him with opportunities to start in the past, and it would look good at the beginning, where he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." Then he'd probably get, I'm just sending a lot of thoughts into people's heads right now, so don't worry about that. But then you'd get like, okay, actually, we can do something with this, and then he'd fall apart. Right now with the Cardinals, he looks like he is in full on. I just don't care, man. I'm just gonna chuck it up to Swole Mike. We'll just do our thing.
Honestly, the Cardinals have a record that is akin to the Raiders and Jets. And if the Cardinals lose out and the Raiders and Jets win a couple games, the Cardinals could be picking him a top 2. And I mean, I think that's best case scenario because I feel like not Steve Bannon, but the less Steve Gannon, it's Jonathan Gannon. There we go.
Jonathan Gannon, that one, yep.
He's probably gone.
He
Honestly,
has to be. He
yeah,
has to be. They already fired the GM, or did they fire the GM?
not yet. They will.
No. Yes. That whole front office has to get cleaned out again. Like going from Cliff Kingsbury to this, where it's just as bad in a different way. It's not
They
working.
if they are picking him a top 2, they take Dante Moore and have him sit behind Brissett for a year. That is a awesome lock. Because as good as Moore is, him sitting behind a QB for a year would be great for his development. Wherein like Mendoza, he has the experience and starting experience to just go out there week 1. I think Moore
Mhm.
sitting behind someone like Brissett would be awesome, but we'll see.
Okay, so who are these wide receivers we're talking about?
So there's a lot that have been really hyped up. I've seen in mock drafts and read about in articles and watched highlights of. After looking through the whole list, I narrowed it down to 6, in part because I've seen them talked about the most, and because just looking at them, they appear to be the ones that could actually be a wide receiver 1 on a team.
Okay.
Not just a good complement piece, but like actually be a wide receiver 1.
So they will not be drafted by the Packers. Gotcha.
Exactly, exactly. Um, First one, and this is a guy that I really like on the Giants, is Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. So Carnell Tate has been okay. Well, rewind it back a little bit. Ohio State has become the wide receiver U. Like they have had so much talent, and they've had so much in a way hidden talent because they've had so many mouths to feed that they haven't had like just one wide receiver step up. I think a great example, two great examples would be JSN and Emeka Abuka. JSN was never. Maybe there was one season where he was, but I think he was hurt. I want to boldly say that there was never a season on Ohio State where JSN was the de facto wide receiver 1. There was never ever a season at Ohio State where Emeka Abuka was de facto wide receiver 1. I think Abuka was behind Olave and JSN, and then Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, who's will be next draft.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
anyway, all that to say that there's so much wide receiver talent at Ohio State that there are legit NFL wide receiver 1s that produce very, very well for Ohio State, but we have not seen even close to their ceiling. Um, that a great example would be Carnell Tate. He is wide receiver 2 at Ohio State now, behind Jeremiah Smith, who is becoming one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time. like blowing Marvin Harrison Jr. Out of the water of all time.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
like possible future number one pick, like just legit. Um, so Cardinal Tate has been the number two, and he has been fantastic. He definitely has the upside to be like a JSN in the NFL, at least in my opinion. Um, and him going to the Giants would be interesting because he would be in tandem with Malik Neighbors, kind of like how he's been in tandem at Ohio State. But I think regardless, he will be a top 10 pick, and no matter what team he goes to, he will be very fantasy relevant. He's my wide receiver one going into the draft.
Okay. Okay. And do you think like his skill set immediately transfers over to the NFL, or do you think it'll be a little bit of a learning curve?
100%. I forget what comps he's had, but he is one of those. He's one of those receivers that is as good as Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Emeka Ibuka, JSN in at Ohio State, and they all very much transferred over. Ohio State has a type, and he fits it.
Perfect. Okay.
The other one I really like a lot is Jordan Tyson. He plays for Arizona State. He's already declared. He previously played for Colorado as well. Um, the only thing about him is that he does have an extensive injury history.
Okay.
He's the kind of player that if he didn't have any injury history, he could be going number one overall. He's
Okay.
that good.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great jump ball receiver. I think I've seen him comped to. Man, I'm brain dead. Listeners can Google it, but he's great after the catch. Has a lot of yak ability. He has the skill set to absolutely be a wide receiver one on a team. So
Okay.
if he's taken him a top 10, it means the team will be taking a risk on him with the injury history, but it will also mean that they see him as their wide receiver one. I can confidently say that. Um, the next top two I want to talk about, one is getting more hyped than the other, but um, the other I like almost as much just based on background.
And real quick before you say the names,
Yeah,
the where would you imagine what team do you imagine would draft him?
Jordan Tyson.
Yeah.
I've seen him mocked most often to, and I agree with this, the Browns and sometimes the Titans, but with his injury history, he could also very likely fall to the Dolphins.
Okay. Okay. And the Dolphins absolutely do need a wide receiver one with Tyreek because Tyreek is likely to lose a big facet of his game with his injury.
Tyson, honestly, he's pretty speedy. He's great after the catch. He does compare a bit to Tyreek Hill, so
Yeah. Okay.
makes sense. And he could fall to the Dolphins. The Dolphins could still pick top 10, but um, it's possible that Tyson even falls to the Steelers, which is also maybe less of a great fit because they have DK. But um, yeah, regardless, he's gonna be fantasy relevant. Um, the next two, one that is very very much a lock to go round one, I believe, is Makai Lemon out of USC. Um, the other I want to mention real quick as well is Zachariah Branch, who used to play at USC and then transferred to Georgia. Branch is a former five-star, and Makai Lemon and Branch, besides having both played at USC, they are smaller slot receivers. And just watching them and reading comps, they both remind me a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
For a lot of different, not just the USC connection, but play style. But particularly with Lemon, I could see him being, and he's been projected to be a wide receiver one. Like he maybe doesn't have as much upside as Tate or Tyson, or as much of a floor as Tate or Tyson, but because he's smaller and more of a slot guy, but he has that athletic ability and that just that just the production to be a wide receiver one. He just won the Fred Bilkentoft Award.
Oh, Bolitnikoff. Yeah.
Bilkentoft, that's it. As the best receiver in the country, and he had like I want to say 1,200 yards, top five in yards in all of college football. So even though he's a smaller slot guy, he really, really, really much so produced, and I think that he absolutely could be a Amon-Ra St. Brown type upside of a player.
Let me throw down some weird astrology here that's not going to work like fantasy football astrology is that the name Lemon is
Mhm.
it just gives me Jacksonville Jaguars vibes and it doesn't necessarily make sense because they have receivers there.
It's the yellow, maybe like
I
Jacksonville yellow color of lemons.
it just feels right. So, catch me back and if this is right, then there's some weird mojo going on right now.
Yes.
But
Well, keeping with your yellow theme, I think the team I've seen him mocked to the most, which makes the most sense, is the Steelers. He's very different than DK in terms of play style. Great compliment to DK. Again, we don't know what the Steelers' offense will look like. It's not easy to get excited about per se, but I think if he were to go to Pittsburgh, he, at least on paper, would be the most fantasy relevant player there. Honestly,
That's fair. I just with me for the Steelers right now, the way they are, it feels like if you're not a tight end, they don't actually like you. Um, but like, okay, go on. Sorry, don't mean to derail.
Oh, and then I do want to talk about Zachariah Branch. He is my little hidden gem because I've seen him talked about less. I've seen him more like, later day 2, early day 3, but
Hmm.
he's a former 5-star recruit. He was like the number 1 receiver in the nation in like the 2022 high school class and like a top 5 player. And he did, pretty good at USC, but part of the reason he transferred is because of Mekhi Lemon kind of taking his role. And he's been great on Georgia this year, like really, really good. So I could see him going pretty high. And a little bit of lore here. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a former 5-star who committed to USC, produced pretty well, but not like exceptionally well to how he was hyped up. So he fell to the 4th round in the NFL draft, and then look what happened. So
Yeah,
there's a
wonderful
little
pick.
narrative I have between these guys that makes me excited. So I want to mention him too.
Okay, so it's very similar sort of thing. Do you have any idea if he goes in the first round? It sounds like he'd go pretty late if that happened. What sort
Branch.
of teams is he looking at?
Um, I mean, I think with Branch, I think even if he goes early second, that makes him pretty relevant.
Hmm.
Um, Depending on free agency, I could see him on the where's my mind going here? I just had the team. I could see him going to like the Giants if they go receiver second round, like he could be a great compliment to Malik Neighbors.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
And then the last 2 guys I want to talk about are 2 players that I've seen pretty routinely late first round that have 2 pretty solid team fits. The first one is Denzel Boston out of Washington. Um, he's uh, pretty typical jump ball yak monster, like
Hmm.
big receiver, DK Metcalf type player. And I've seen him mocked a lot to the Bills, and I find it funny because his last name's Boston, and if he,
Yeah, that would be a pretty poor fit for that one reason. Uh,
I think if he's a great player, and they beat Boston twice a year with a guy named Boston, I think that's kind of funny.
the best Boston in the world.
He
Uh,
go to the Patriots though too. They don't really have that big guy.
and yeah, exactly. Without namesake, even I feel like if he's like a DK Metcalf type player, then I don't know if the picks make sense, but him going to Tennessee at some point
Okay,
because them trying to replace AJ Brown with AJ Brown.
that could work. I mean, if AJ Brown's gone, the Eagles could take him too.
And the Eagles have a strong Boston history. With that running back they had, I forget his first name, last name Boston.
Oh, well, there's Boston Scott.
Boston Scott, thank you. I forget his last name apparently because it's switched around, in order. Scott should be the.
I
It's neither
forgot
here nor
about
there.
him right now.
I mean, Boston Scott, he's got like a lore behind him because he's a running back 3, and yet for some reason he always shows up in certain games to just demolish a team.
I haven't. I think I had him in fantasy in 2020, and I think he had one game where he exploded for me. So that's a pull. I like it.
Anyways, yes. So not to again the fantasy football astrology hour for me right here. The Willie's the one to listen to. I'm just gonna be clear with that one on this. So.
Well, I do like Denzel Boston, not just because of the fits, but because he's done this in Washington. He could be like a wide receiver 1, like come into a team and be the number 1. So
Mhm.
if you're looking at rookie fantasy players, that's who you want to target. I mean, there's always like a Puka that blows up, but like 9 times out of 10, you want to target players that have a chance to like get the most targets on a team.
Right.
And then the last guy I want to mention, just because I love his name and he's really produced opposite another younger star receiver this year. That guy is Casey Concepcion,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
out of Texas A&M, formerly out of NC State. Um, he's just a cool player. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a whole lot of his highlights, but just like reading about him, he seems like a cool guy. And he plays opposite Mario Craver, which is also a cool name. At Texas A&M, Mario won't be draft eligible until next year. But he's produced like a wide receiver one while playing the number two role. Again, that's what you want to look for in fantasy, like those guys that maybe haven't had that opportunity, but really very much so could. Um, so he's just a never name to watch. I think I've seen him most mocked to the Broncos. And I was reading something about how he's a player that fits a mold that Denver doesn't really have right now. So something to watch if he goes there. Um,
Cool. Okay.
Evan.
Okay. So if you're wide receiver needy and you're in a dynasty, this is a draft you do want a part of. If you're not wide receiver needy in dynasty, this may be a draft you want to. I
Pivot.
don't know. Yeah. Try to trade off, like you said. Okay.
2027 looks pretty. It looks pretty loaded. I got one more player here. I want to talk about, and I'm just going to talk about the player because there's not a whole lot of tight ends to get excited about, at least on paper. But I think the de facto number one tight end, like first round tight end pick, is Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon.
Okay.
Um, and this one just kind of just goes about saying. I mean, I think any team that takes him in the first round is going to be a tight end needy team that will use him. I mean, that just kind of goes about saying. I I really would like to see him on the Patriots. I think he could play with Hunter Henry for a year, and the Patriots are such a frustrating fantasy team at times because they just have so many mouths to feed. But it's kind of like the Packers where there's no clear number one. I really think, having watched him at Oregon, that I really think that Kenyon City could come in and be like that number one guy. There's also a lot of competition at Oregon, but I don't know, something about Sadiq on the Patriots just it makes sense. I don't know.
I could see it. I mean, at times it feels like Hunter Henry could be the wide receiver one for the Patriots, that
Yeah.
even as a tight end, and we know that McDaniel's likes to use his tight ends pretty frequently in his offenses. Uh, Vrabel, maybe we haven't seen that as much, but he also didn't have the same level of talent in Tennessee.
And at the tight end, yeah, position. And that's a
Mhm.
good point. I think maybe that's why I'm resonating with Patriots is because of Hunter Henry. Like if you had a better, younger Hunter Henry, like he would be getting twice as many targets. And Henry is already a huge part of that offense. So
Mhm. Mhm.
something to get excited about. I think the other team that stands out to me would be the Chiefs. I think if any offensive piece, the skill position piece, the Chiefs take in the first two rounds is always someone to look at. And I think that if Kelsey retires and they go Sadiq in the first round, like that is something to get excited about for fantasy.
And I would
Um,
be shocked if Kelsey's on the Chiefs again, regardless of whether or not he retires. I could see him going somewhere else potentially, but I would it'd make more sense if he retired. And Noah Gray, I don't think has shown enough to be the guy who actually steps into that role,
not
as
not the
people had
guy.
hoped. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the fits. I think that it kind of goes without saying that any tight end taken in the first round of a draft is going to be someone you look at in fantasy at the very least. Because I mean, we've had back to back years of Tyler Warren, Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, who was early second. Trey McBride was early second round draft pick. Like there's always somebody that pops off. So I think this
Mhm,
year
mhm.
very much likely will be Kenyon Sadiq.
Wonderful. Okay. Cool. Are there any other players you want to highlight? Like, is there a kicker out there that's going to change the world of kicking for everyone?
No, there. This is kind of a weak draft, to be honest, at least on paper. Um, the O line, there's no really premium O line talent. There's not a whole lot of great defensive talent. Like there is, but nothing. It's kind of feeling like the 2022 draft a little bit.
Okay. Okay. So we'll move on then. Thank you, Willie, because that was a good breakdown. I'm gonna go check out all these names a little bit later.
Wait.
Uh, I have plenty of time to think now, as we talked about. So let's move on to injuries for the week because there are a ton of injuries, and we can just kind of talk about what it means for the players around them. I'm going to start off with just the gigantic one that looms over so many different teams in the fantasy playoffs. Patrick Mahomes, he tore his ACL and LCL. He's out for the season. It's already been said that he'll likely be back for next season. It'd be shocking if he wasn't. The timeline seems crazy to me, but here we are. And is there anyone on the Chiefs besides Travis Kelsey who seemed to be a target hog for Minshew as soon as he came in that you want to play?
This is a great test for Rashi Rice because Rashi definitely passes the eye test of this like legit top 10 receiver in the NFL at times. Like he's very consistent, but we have not seen him play without Patrick Mahomes. So like this will be a test. Like, is he just that incredible of a player, or is he just have such good chemistry with Mahomes?
And I do want to also point out that Rashee Rice was missed practice today due to concussion symptoms,
Okay.
which is a little spooky thing because if he gets hit with a concussion, I think it'd be almost impossible for him to get in this week, getting hit with it after the game. Now we've seen
Yeah.
this before, so it's not impossible, but I don't see why they would rush it. Um, but okay, so you're still in on Rashee Rice if he plays. I think you got to be in on with Travis Kelsey just based on what we saw this last game where Minshew came in and hyper targeted Travis to start with, and then the one time he didn't try to target him, he threw an int. You know,
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I'm cautiously in on Rashee Rice. I think if you have him, you probably are starting him, so that's kind of here nor there. I think if you are in such a position where you have such a great team of wide receivers, you could stand to like sit him this week and then see how he does before, and then play him championship week.
mhm.
I'm definitely more on him than Kelsey. I do like the targets that we saw with Kelsey for Minshew, but Minshew didn't play that much, and he was just kind of thrown out there. So I think targeting the most well known player on the team kind of makes sense. I don't know if Minshew's always historically looked at his tight ends as like,
He was the one who made Brock Bowers a thing in Las
okay,
Vegas.
true.
I mean, there was multiple quarterbacks that season that did it, but Minshew was the one who really started hyper targeting him.
Okay, that's true. I did have Kelsey possibly on my controversial sits this week, so I might rethink that a little bit, but uh,
It's hard. It's hard because they're going against the Titans, and the Titans have just been absolutely offensively bad in their passing defense lately. Their running defense has been okay at times, but their passing defense has just been non-existent. Um,
I can't name a single linebacker on the Titans, so you got me there.
yeah, I feel that. So this is the unfortunate. Like, you could I I don't know. The thought process I'm working through right now is that like you have Minshew. I've seen Minshew. He's not a good quarterback, but he can hyper target players.
Hmm.
But at the same point, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith Schuster, like those level of players, I really am not interested in putting
No,
in, like,
no.
especially not in the playoffs. Like, I don't want any part of these guys. So if you're
Xavier,
starting,
Xavier Worthy, no, 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 Xavier Worthy. Drop
yeah,
him.
there's a reason I forgot his name. Oops.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Xavier Worthy, no, and the running backs I'm out on too. Just this like doesn't give me a lot of touchdown potential feeling like for these guys.
yeah.
So like it is for me, Rashee Rice if he plays, and Travis Kelsey, and pretty much no one else on this team.
Okay, here's a hypothetical for you. Say you are a team that maybe listen to my fantasy advice beginning of season and win in on the Chiefs offense, and you got Mahomes, Rice, and Kelsey. Do you think there's a chance that if you have multiple Chiefs that it would be worth starting two of them? Or do you think that you maybe want to be more cautious about even starting one? Like, is there a world where both Kelsey and Rice could have a good game?
There's a world where they each have okay games. I don't think there's a world where they each have good to great games.
Okay.
So like 7 to 11 points for each. Okay, fine. But that's removing the touchdown upside because that's where I really think Minshew's going to hurt them is that he can move the ball a little bit, but he is as far as we've seen, a turnover machine lately,
Yeah.
and that's not helpful for getting to the red zone. And also, I think that Andy Reid knows exactly what he has to work with now, and he's going to double down on just like we're going to kill the clock, let the defense win the game for us.
I think that's a good point. Do you think is there one more than the other that you would lean towards?
I'm leaning towards Kelsey just because of the way we saw him hyper target it. And again, I had to watch a lot of Minshew last year. He hyper targets players, and that's great for fantasy for that player that's hyper targeted, and really bad for everybody else.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, leaning towards most likely Kelsey just based on what we saw last game, but regardless, there's possibly a diamond in the rough there in PPR.
Yeah, and this is the Andy Reid system, right? So like Andy Reid is also going to design plays for other people, and he's going to tell Minshew you have to throw it here to this person at this time. And Minshew will still screw it up a little bit, but he'll have to do it. So this is where you can see Rashee Rice really still get some movement. That is, of course, assuming he plays. This concussion thing worries me because it could also be one of these like, yeah, you took two big hits in these last two games, and now we're out of the playoffs. So just chill, you're fine.
Yeah,
take a game off, come back next time.
that's fair. Yeah, I think we'll have to see, but
Yep.
still sucks. I mean, it doesn't really feel real that Mahomes is injured.
Same season that Tom Brady got injured in their careers,
Yep.
respectively. Same injury. Team missed the playoffs both times. They found the fun stat is that neither of quarterback had to be on the field when their team finally lost out on the playoffs.
Yep.
Um, I hate those parallels as an AFC West fan that's not of the Chiefs. Okay, we'll move on though. Running back Devin Neal, hamstring strain. Those haven't been going well for us this season. When they get the hamstring strains, it's usually a lot of weeks.
And he left the game too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the New Orleans Saints running back. So like your amount of relevancy here is questionable to start with. He wasn't particularly lighting up the world. He did score a touchdown last week before he came in, but so Alvin Kamara, he hasn't practiced since week 12.
No.
I think it's a long shot to say he's there. You've got Audric Estime and Evan Hull. With Estime being the one guy who I saw get carries. I don't remember Hull getting many carries, if any.
I
He may have, but
I think Estime's been there since the beginning of the year too, so
mhm.
that could give him a leg up.
So the Saints go against the Jets. That's a good matchup. There's some space for someone to have a good game here, and like running back is one of those positions where you even if you're in the playoffs, you may need a spot start.
Yeah, with injuries and whatnot. Yeah,
It if you were going to spot start Audric Estime or Evan Hull, which one would you choose?
Naheem Hines.
Okay, the guy who just got signed. I mean, but that could be the answer. He's a pass catching back.
I am excited about Hines. He just joined the Saints, so he's not even been in
Hmm.
consideration, for them to replace Neil earlier this week. So very recent ad. I like him because we saw a little bit of him on the Bills, like in the Colts, like actually look good. He's the player that he had an off season, like summer of 2023. He had a severe knee injury on a like some drunk guy on a boat hit him and like messed up his leg.
Yeah,
So he
right
couldn't
after he
walk
got his
for a while.
opportunity.
Yeah, so
So
he's back. He hasn't played in a minute, but he's back. I don't know. I feel this just feels like an Arizona Cardinals running back nightmare all over again. So
yeah, even in the good matchup, unless I'm really desperate, in which case for me, I would choose Estime just because we've seen him
yeah,
do it. He hasn't looked terrible. There's a reason why he was like third or fourth string at this point, but he would be my choice if you were gonna throw the dice. But I would hope to avoid this.
me too. I actually I would choose Estene. I think that Hines maybe has the highest ceiling, but I I would, yeah. I think if in this game I would get excited. I think you look at Tyler Shuck, he's starting to cement himself as like, hey, maybe the Saints are just going to roll with him next year. It really looks like it. So I would get excited about seeing him get a lot of the goal line carries,
Hmm.
which he already has been, and then also maybe just like airing it out more. So I like Chris Olave for that, like as a big start.
I think I have Chris Olave listed, and we'll talk about him later.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we'll move on. RJ Harvey has a rib injury. He's just questionable for next week. According to Sean Payton, like they didn't think it was anything. Of course, coaches say that all the time, and then players miss 18 weeks. I'm overestimating. I'm just talking about Ricky Pearsall, guys. So if RJ Harvey misses, which the Broncos did claim Cody Schrader off of waivers, so that would suggest that potentially RJ Harvey will miss.
Okay.
You're looking at Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet or Batty. I think it's Bidet. Uh, Stepping up as the running backs on the team. Jaleel McLaughlin, of course, having like large, big play ability, and
Hmm.
Tyler Bidet being kind of the more standard running back, I suppose. Out of the two, if you're adding one, who are you adding? And as soon as I find out who the Broncos are playing this week, because I forgot
Jaguars.
the Jaguars, do you want to avoid that matchup?
So I think Bidet just got a touchdown this past week, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was 2 weeks ago, but I don't think it's relevant. I would like McLaughlin because at times he's looked like a wide receiver, just in
Hmm.
how involved he's been in the passing game when given the opportunity. Um, So I don't hate a McLaughlin start if you have to. I certainly like him more than the Saints running backs, but I think that I don't know. I don't really consider rib injuries very serious in the NFL, and I really think RJ Harvey will play. Um,
Okay, that's fair. I'm also on McLaughlin's side. Bidet hasn't shown it yet. McLaughlin
yes,
has the big playability too, and like just check out Travion Henderson these last few weeks. You don't need a ton of rushes if you score a 70-yard touchdown.
exactly.
Woody Marks has an ankle sprain. He's questionable for week 16. Nick Chubb could be back because he also had a rib injury that he missed last week with. So it's been 2 weeks. He could come back. If Nick Chubb's not back, then you have Jawar Jordan or Dare Ogunbowale. Um, which Dare, I love the guy, but I don't think if he's the guy there, you don't want to play him. Trust me.
Texans are going up against the Raiders. I mean, that's a pretty solid matchup. Um, I don't know. I think that here's the thing. I think that if you are playing a guy like Woody Marks or Devin Neal, ideally they're probably your primary flex and not your primary running back. And I would try and pivot towards another flex spot. But I think I would probably lean towards Dare just because we've seen him get touchdowns already this year. At least a couple times I think he scored.
I just feel like he's like a fumble waiting to happen. When he gets his like the main role, it seems he always fumbles. Yeah, I would hope Nick Chubb's back if you're in this position and you can play Nick
Yeah,
Chubb because I think Nick Chubb's back with the veteran he is, and even if he doesn't have that burst, they're not really going to need the burst against the Raiders. They can just pound him in the sand, you know. So Nick
yeah.
Chubb could be that guy. Uh,
CJ Stroud's not the kind of quarterback that is taking the goal line rushing touchdowns either. So if Nick Chubb is there, he's going to be the one to get those.
yeah, and the Raiders defensive vibes are really bad right now. They're all yelling at each other, so this defense is falling apart. Uh, okay, here's a fun one. Let's talk about more fun running backs.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry to the player who I'm about to say this about. That was a mean thing to say before I started this. Bam Knight, he has a high ankle sprain, and he's almost certainly out for the rest of the year for the Cardinals, leaving you once again with Imari DiMercado and Michael Carter.
Oh man. Um, both of them,
So
both of them burned me on separate weeks.
yeah, it's just gross. And they're going against the Falcons, which is not necessarily the best matchup for running backs. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. I I don't if I'm in the playoffs right now, I am going with one of the Saints running backs over these guys,
Me
honestly, which
me
is
too.
pretty crazy, but that's where I would go.
Me too. Yeah, there's just nothing to get excited about there. And at least, I mean, maybe it's just bitterness, but yeah, I think that at least if the Saints, like the Saints are going against the Jets, you know that they've
Exactly. There's a matchup is so much better.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, okay, hear me out. Michael Carter, or if Woody Marks and Nick Chubb are out, Dare Hagumboale.
Yeah,
We're in the bad place right now, but this is what we're looking at.
I mean, I, I would start Trey Benson and somehow hope he magically regains.
All
Yes.
right. Michael Carter. I think the one benefit I have with Michael Carter is that we saw him at least at one point produce as the primary running back for his team this year.
On the week that I didn't start him, yes,
Yeah.
we did.
It wasn't consistent. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is more relevant probably to certain teams because Bashal Tootin is out for 3 to 4 weeks. That means LaQuint Allen is the RB2. LaQuint Allen has looked pretty good at times this season. Not phenomenal, but pretty good. But this is what this does for me, and all it does for me is it just cements Travis Etienne as a wonderful start for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I do like Allen. I mean, he's just been buried on the depth chart. I
Mhm.
think he's gotten a couple of rushing scores though.
He has,
Yeah,
and he's looked pretty good when he got those rushing scores. Like Liam Cohen's running game seems to be pretty strong. He
he's
seems to know what he's doing.
yeah, he's a damn good coach, really.
hmm
Um, I think that if you have a deep enough bench, obviously not this week, but if ETN were to go down this week and him and Tootin are out, I think you can confidently start LaQuint Allen in the championship, just because he'll get the opportunity for sure.
Yep.
But
Uh,
bench stash.
Yeah, and it is hard because Travis Etienne is going against the Broncos, but I think that touchdown upside is too strong now to worry about it because
Yeah.
Bashal was stealing touchdowns. If Bashal's not there, and if we assume that LeQuint doesn't have the exact one-to-one stand-in for Bashal, then I think Travis Etienne just benefits. This is just a ceiling raiser for Etienne.
Yeah. I agree. I the Broncos matchup doesn't deter me from ETN.
Let's move to a sadder one that you've already mentioned earlier. Wide receiver Devontae Adams, hamstring strain, and it looked bad. Like when he was running, it looked like his leg popped. So I don't know what that means. It scared me more. This is actually good news considering what it could have been, but for fantasy that doesn't matter because this is the rest of your season. Devontae Adams is out. Um,
He was questionable going into the game, which gives me even more pause.
mhm.
I think I would be shocked if he starts another game in the regular season. There's no reason for him to.
No, they need him for the postseason. Like their
Yeah.
success of the 1 yard line with Devontae Adams is just insane. So this is not good for Matthew Stafford. This is probably you could almost say it's good for Puka, but I don't really think it was. It's just more like sideways. It doesn't really change his role.
Yeah.
The players you're looking at are Tutu and Colby Parkinson. Um, and I've heard Jordan Whittington's name thrown out there. Don't throw it out there. Throw it back in. He hasn't shown anything as far as fantasy goes. Tutu, however, has every once in a while. And then Colby has been scoring touchdowns lately. So that was kind of the Devontae Adams role was to score touchdowns. So if
And
Colby
so
can step into that, there's potential there. What do you think with these guys?
I'm really off too. I think he maybe we've seen it from him before, but that was like 3 years ago. Um, I think I really like Colby Parkinson. Honestly, I would if you had to, I would start him. I tried to get him off waivers this week, and my opponent Max took him. And honestly, I would have started him this week. I really think that the past 3 weeks we've just seen this level of targets, fantasy points, receptions all increase every week.
And
Uh,
and the as I discussed last week, it didn't prove fruitful for different reasons. The Seahawks defense is particularly bad against the tight ends.
yeah,
So there's that wrinkle to it as well.
and I believe Tyler Higbee is out too.
Even if he wasn't, I mean,
Yeah. I
but I
just
get what you're saying. Like that provides more opportunity for him. Higbee hasn't really done much, but
there's more, but I do think I think Colby Parkinson, like, maybe not the best start in the world, but if you're a little bit more than just desperate, I think you can start him and feel okay
sick.
for sure.
Okay, we have a question. Sorry, I'm looking around because my camera's right in the way of the question, but I'm gonna pop this up. So, which wide receiver should I start non PPR with Sutton? So Sutton's starting. We have BTJ versus Denver. Oh no, we want to sit BTJ and we want to sit Rice. I'll pop this back up. Don't you worry. Uh, Jefferson versus New York Giants. Jaden Reed versus Bears. Or Egbuka versus Panthers.
Okay, I got a preference here.
Okay, hit me with your preference.
It's someone that I actually picked up off waivers, and I think I will start this week. And that's Jaden Reed. I think that if Christian Watson is out, he could really go off. Like there still is Romeo Dobbs there, but this Packers Bears game, especially with Micah out now, this is the kind of game where there's going to be a lot of passing involved. I think even with how cold it could be, the Packers are not favored in this game, fortunately, and I think that we're going to see a lot of passing. And we also Josh Jacobs has had some questionable injury stuff too, so I really am strongly feeling a strong Jaden Reed game. I'm not excited about Emeka Ibuka right now. I'm sorry, I'm just bad vibes. And same with Jefferson.
That's fair. This is a hard one for me because they're all kind of in the same tier right now. I can follow
Well, yeah,
your I can follow your meaning here with Jaden Reed and why it would work. I will give this. So Griffin has given a little bit more context. That's the person who commented here. He says mostly torn between Jefferson or Egbuka because Watson might play in too many wide receivers for Packers.
yeah. If
So
Watson does play, I'm off of Reed.
okay, and so let me ask you this question: if Watson does play between Jefferson and Egbuka, where you lean?
Uh,
Vikings have the Giants, and the Bucks have the. I just had this pulled up. Panthers.
it's just tough because who okay, who do you think is wide receiver one on the Bucks right now? or who will the Panthers? Okay, who will J.C. Horn on the Panthers see
It's
as
it's gonna be Mike Evans just based on last game,
okay?
because he immediately stepped back in that role, most targets.
Because
Mike Evans, yeah.
J.C. Horn is legit on the Panthers as a corner. He's shut down. He's one of the best corners in the league. I think he might be the highest paid corner in the league. But apart from him, the Panthers have nobody.
Mhm.
So if he's going to be shadowing somebody and it's Evans, then that does give a lot of upside to Ibuka. It's just so hard to get excited about Ibuka though. I mean Jefferson has to have it. Like he's got to have a game, right? It's
This is against the Giants, whose defense has been absolutely awful. And that's kind of where I just lean because so you'll see later I'm gonna talk about Aaron Jones, which is crazy. But Jefferson could easily be that guy because I don't think the Vikings are a strong enough team offensively to just pull away and completely beat the Giants. The Giants will stay in it, especially with the way Jackson Dark plays, which
yeah.
means Jefferson likely has fair game script on his side. And it's not that I expect him to blow up, but I think he'll have an okay game at the very least. Whereas I would worry more so about Egbuka just having a kind of subpar
Mediocre.
game, especially when we're talking about non PPR, because we really need those high yardage and the touchdowns to matter. So this is where I lean towards Jefferson in this. Um,
I agree. I mean, between the two, I would lean Jefferson.
mhm. And
I'm being I'm being facetious here, Griffin, but is Jalen Naylor on your waiver? Because I haven't.
That's a guy that JJ McCarthy just seems to
It,
love. Some quarterbacks, some wide receivers, they just click together, and this is one of those
it,
things.
there's a Freaky Friday situation of Jefferson and Naylor. I think Naylor has had like 5 touchdowns in the past like 6 weeks or 4 weeks
Mhm,
even. I don't know,
mhm.
but he's just getting the touchdowns and Jefferson isn't. So I think I agree with you though that this is a closer matchup on paper. So throwing the ball, probably a tougher defense than the Cowboys defense too. So throwing the ball will be a factor, and I agree. I think non PPR Jefferson definitely has the higher upside. So
Yeah, and I also do agree though. If Watson is out, that Jaden Reed is a great play because that game is going to be competitive as all heck, and
oh
they're
yeah,
both going to score points. Now the Bucks Panthers game does matter because they're neck and neck in the division with both teams having lost last week. Um, but the issue is just that with so many wide receivers back and Egbuka being the way he has been lately too, I don't know. I'm on Jefferson if Watson plays, and I'm on Reed if Watson doesn't play also. So I think we're in agreement there.
I totally agree.
Mhm. Okay, so speaking of which, I was just going to bring up Christian Watson. So he's doubtful for Week 16 was the official word that I saw, which
Okay.
doubtful hasn't proven well for many players, but it could, you know. Um,
The thing that gives me fear about him too is that they play on Saturday night, so he has one less day to prepare. Um, I mean, he's pretty tough, but I don't know. You kind of have to maybe wonder about a snap count if he does play.
yeah, and this is, I mean, I could see with the way they're doing it with Jacobs, I could see him coming out regardless of how much he practices because they've been just like pushing the players forward. And if Watson plays, I think you can still play him if you're in like that level of wide receiver because he's been fairly consistent, especially for the Packers wide receivers. And again, this is an important game that they're going to need to score points for.
I would temper your expectations, but in the last Bears game, he put up like almost 30 points.
Yeah, so do watch it, and at least with Saturday game, you'll know beforehand. As long as you're not comparing him to someone from the Rams or the Seahawks, you'll have the opportunity to switch out for whoever you need to.
And I think if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, he's been questionable like every week for the past few weeks, and he's played. But if he doesn't play, I think Emmanuel Wilson is. I think you can be confident in starting him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Emmanuel Wilson steps in pretty well, it seems.
Yeah,
Ricky Pearsall, we're back.
I, we're back.
PCL aggravation, ankle sprain, almost certainly out week 16.
Just drop him.
It stinks. It stinks because he's just another one of these 49er players that is just deleted because of injury.
Sucks. I mean, he has the talent. You can hope that because of this, he goes undrafted in fantasy drafts next year and could be a league winner. Especially if Juwan Jennings is gone and Brandon Ayuk will be gone. But that's really the only thing to look forward to is next year with Pearsall.
Okay, so I got another question. So I'm waiting for it to pop up on here. I saw it on the YouTube. Here we go. Boom. Stuck on this. In my QBs and semis last week, I played Lamar and went well, but this week I feel like my other QB, Joe Burrow, could bounce back. Would you play Lamar or Burrow?
Okay, nice, nice. I'm glad you asked this because I'm gonna start Burrow this week over Knicks, just because I really do love the matchup against the Dolphins. Regardless if Quinn Ewers is playing, Tua. I think we mentioned briefly Tua getting benched is a big deal. But I think regardless, I think Joe Burrow I think has to have a bounce back game, and he looks so good in every game he's been back since, besides last week. Um, so the Lamar matchup against the Patriots is interesting.
It is. The Patriots defense hasn't looked stifling by any means. They're better against the run than they seem to be against the pass. I've Here's the thing with Lamar, right? So they're every week is a must win for them. Every week is the playoffs. They have to win to have a chance at catching the Steelers, and they need the Steelers to lose something too.
Yeah,
Um, I'll just say it. Lamar and his receivers do not look good together.
they
They
really
have
don't.
moments. They have moments, but like him and Zay Flowers aren't always on the same page, and when they're not, it's ugly. Him and Mark Andrews is kind of old and slow.
Yeah,
And then Isaiah Likely, we saw him goose against the Bengals last week. So it's like, what is this team right now? I can't figure it out, and it scares the heck out of me. Now Burrow sounds like he's a dead man walking with the way he talks, but the Dolphins matchup is so much better, and they're so good against the run that they're gonna have to pass the ball, and the Bengals aren't good enough to guarantee anything as far as like boat racing a team. We haven't seen them do it. They can't really. I don't think their defense can stop anyone, even if they tried. And HAN alone, if they dump it off to him 12 times, he's going to score a touchdown. So
yeah.
I, it's the only thing that's hard for me is this one specific little thing that's in the back of my head, and that is Lamar Jackson in prime time fighting for a playoff spot.
It's pretty nasty.
And it's
I
against the Patriots, a team that I know Baltimore hates.
I saw Ray Gamer added some context here that makes me a little bit more conflicted. Is it 6 points per touchdown? So I assume that is per passing touchdown. I feel strongly that Burrow's going to throw more touchdowns than Lamar. If at least I think. I guess that contradicts myself, but I don't know. I think you really can't go wrong here. I really don't. I think I like both. I think that Burrow's going to have a bounce back game with a great matchup. And I think that Lamar, like you said, in prime time, like in a must win game, is going to show out. I think they're both going to have really good games. I I think that you mentioned here as well. If Higgins plays, I feel like I can play Burrow, but it's not. It's close. I I do agree with that, and it is really close. But I think that if Higgins is out, I probably would lean Lamar.
Yeah, this is such a close one for me. It really is. Like this is a gnarly one. I feel for you, Ray. Like this is a
Yeah,
rough one because this decision is going to be important for you ultimately. Um,
it's a great position to be in, but also really difficult because you know that if you lose your matchup, like you're gonna probably look at your quarterback and be like, if I'd started the other one, I would have won, just because
yeah,
that position gets so many points.
yeah. Just with what we've seen from, I'm going to lean Lamar, and I hate it because I don't think he's playing his best football, and I don't think his wide receivers are helping him. But this is the Patriots are particularly good against the run, even if they didn't look that way last week. But James Cook's and the Bills is a whole different situation than Derrick Henry and the Ravens. I think that the Patriots are going to sell out to stop Henry, try to get Lamar to actually do something because he hasn't been able to do it. And I think Lamar will do it this week. I'm in on Lamar over Burrow, but it is disgustingly close.
My advice would be I would probably slightly lean Lamar, but my advice would be to monitor injuries up until Sunday morning. And if there's a single Ravens offensive lineman or if T. Higgins is out, like pivot to the other, basically.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Higgins is in for sure. I don't expect him to play honestly because of the amount of concussions. But if he is in and they force him out there, that is where I could say that a Burrow might be a wiser choice
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Higgins and Jamar Chase is going to be too much for the Dolphins to handle in the air. But I really don't expect Higgins to play. I would be shocked if he plays.
I'll actually, yeah. What I'll throw it down. I'll say that if If Higgins plays, I'll start Burrow. If he doesn't play, I'll start Lamar. Just
Okay.
say that.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right.
Okay, so let's talk about Roma Dunze and Luther Burden. Dunze is not a new injury; it's an old injury, but he missed last week. It's a stress fracture in his foot, and that stinks because you
Yeah.
don't really know how long it's going to take to heal. Um,
I
eh,
think they would be wise to shut him down for the rest of the regular season, unless absolutely necessary. Because if the Bears beat the Packers on Saturday, they have like a 95% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, they're probably going to have to lean on him more the next couple weeks. So
mhm.
I don't expect him to play this week personally.
In Luther Burden, he hurt his ankle, and he's
Yes,
questionable for this next week. Do you have any do you have any idea if he seems more likely to play?
I think he does. I think he was a limited participant at practice today, and Rome wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, I probably would lean Luther more likely to play. I really don't think Rome's going to play. Um,
Okay.
I think that if both are out, or even if one is out, I really like the Colston Loveland start.
Yeah.
He is just such a. I don't know how much you've watched of him, but it feels like his hands are not only glue; they are also like this suction force. Like he doesn't drop balls, and he's so good at just catching things in tight coverage. It's like if it's a third down and he's there and the ball's being thrown to him, I feel like every time it's a lock for him to get the first down.
Hmm.
Every time. I don't know. He's the Bears player I see on offense. Actually, honestly, the whole team that I see like you, Colston Loveland, you could be a future Hall of Famer. Like in at least in terms of the eye test, he looks like the best Bears player with the most upside. Just a little tangent there, but I love him. I think that if especially if Rome and Lufer are out, I would feel comfortable starting Loveland.
And here's what we got from Ray. Just a FYI, thanks. I Kyron Williams, if Devontae Adams out, you're good. And Jason Myers, my God, you're good. Like, trust me, that guy has killed it. So,
He has the
uh,
chance to score the most points by a player in a season ever.
yeah, I on
Crazy.
the Thanksgiving episode, I was thankful for Jason Myers. I'm just saying, it hasn't changed. Trust me on that one. Has not changed. Okay, do you play Caleb Williams if one is out, if both are out?
If both are out, I'm gonna lean maybe not. If just one of them, just because they both have so much touchdown upside, um, it's hard. I mean, there's still so many weapons. There's still Cole Kmet. There's still Colston. There's still Devin Duvernay. Still Zacchaeus. There's still Caleb's legs. There's probably players I would like. I would play Joe Burrow and Lamar over Williams for sure, but
Hmm.
he's definitely not like he's definitely not a quarterback where you have to sit him. Just like temper your expectations.
What about DJ Moore? Where does DJ Moore move for you?
I forgot about DJ Moore.
That's a bad sign.
No, I think that if they're both out, DJ Moore is definitely a player to watch to have another big game. I, I don't know why. I still would almost rather start Colston Loveland than DJ Moore just because Loveland doesn't have duds like DJ
The
Moore.
chemistry between Caleb Williams and DJ Moore looks real bad right now. Like they're just missing each other on easy things. For what it's worth, I agree with that.
Yeah.
We'll move on to a injury that hopefully is not affecting your team in the playoffs. So Devon Vele hurt his left shoulder. So this is good for Chris Olave owners, honestly. And then everyone else, I'm kind of not worried about it.
It's
Devon Vele is a player I don't hate. By the way, I think like he has some like sneaky potential future, especially in dynasty. Like he could be a wide receiver too. That is like,
in
let's talk
waiting.
about like Crowder level of Jameson Crowder in the past, where like he was never like the number one very good, but he was a guy you could throw in your flex for 8 to 11 points.
Yeah, that's a good comp, honestly. And also because like Crowder played on bad Bills teams and the Jets. So
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
I think that this I like Olave for this just because Olave is already the player that we see have the potential to get hyper targeted. And if Devon Vele's out, he could be like 16 targets. Pretty, I could see
Hmm.
that happening, especially against the Jets. So I think this you're not starting Tyler Shuck. So I think regardless, Chris Olave is a must start.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the another injury that we had that's not offensive injury, but it may impact this Bears game is Micah Parsons tore his ACL. This stinks for people who were traded at the deadline because both him and Sauce now have
It's
had
awesome.
significant injuries. Yeah.
I
Michael
mean,
wasn't traded at the deadline. I'm sorry. That it's neither here nor there. Defensive players that were traded.
we traded for first round picks.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, as a Bears fan, I just gotta say it sucks. I really would have liked to beat the Packers on Saturday with Micah, so it doesn't have to feel more legitimate because now it's wins or just wins, but it would have made the narrative more exciting. And
Hmm.
I just feel like the Packers, they have the Bears, the Patriots, and the Vikings. Like they could absolutely lose out, which I'd love, but they could absolutely lose out against the for the rest of the year and like not make the playoffs. Like the NFC is so tight right now that even though Micah's a defensive player, I think is really negatively affects the Packers offense just because they're playing such big games.
See, I think this is good for fantasy for their offense. One of these wide receivers, especially if Christian Watson can stay healthy, is going to have more opportunity. When your defense is worse, your offense has to be better.
At least your passing offense. Yeah, it
Mhm.
does give me more excitement for the passing offense, but definitely makes me less bullish on Josh Jacobs for sure.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a couple of injuries that happened that we don't have to talk a long time about. Samaje P. Ryan, hurt ankle injury, raises Chase Brown's upside, but it's against the Dolphins, who have been very stout against the run.
Recently they have, yeah, they really have. Uh,
Um, Tyler Lockett suffered an injury. You don't I laugh at this because don't play Raiders receivers against the Texans.
on the
Don't you
Raiders, that's
dare do it.
God, he's on the Raiders. That's I
Yeah, stealing all the rookies' time, you know. Uh, and then Noah Brown also left early with an injury, and he is on the Commanders
yeah.
for what it's worth.
Hmm.
It doesn't move anything really significantly for me. That's the same position you were in before with these guys. If you were playing McLaurin, you needed to play McLaurin.
Yeah.
If you're playing Debo, like good luck on the roulette wheel.
At
Okay,
least they've been healthy. I'll give them that.
so let's go ahead and get into our picks. We're about at that time. Um,
Yes.
we'll start off with last week's picks, and I'm just gonna get the pain out of the way if you don't mind, because last week was a particularly bad week for me, and in just a lot of different ways. And
Here,
so
I'm gonna go plug in my computer, so go hit
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, dude. So last week for me, my nuclear boys were Travis Etienne. That was a great pick. Travis Etienne had a phenomenal game. Uh, he was the centerpiece of a Jaguars team that just dominated the Jets. And somehow still with Trevor Lawrence scoring a billion points. So
All three of ETN's touchdowns were receiving touchdowns, which is kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you would have got him and Trevor Lawrence in a game, you would have just destroyed. Then I had Rasheed Rice, who didn't have a very good game at all. But this is one of those things that's kind of weird when the quarterback goes down with an ACL tear. And not only that, I feel like the Chiefs were playing particularly bad last week against the Chargers, and the Chargers play the Chiefs pretty well, but it never looked like that anything clicked for them. So
Yeah,
such is
the
life.
Chargers defense is still so good somehow.
Yeah, yeah, I don't get it. I'm gonna just run through these. The gas guys that I had, Emeka Egbuka, he didn't kill you if you're in PPR, but he didn't do very good. And then Khalil Shakir, same thing. He didn't kill you in PPR, but he didn't like blow up. So just I'm not counting them as wins, but not full losses. Now the gut check Starks. Oh boy. I'm I'm sorry, and this one bit me hard too. I didn't I I fell for it myself. If you listen to the start of this episode, I played this guy, Tyler Warren, just awful. And it wasn't his game. It's just that Philip Rivers didn't have a ton of yards. There was almost no yards really to go around.
Yeah, he
Uh
didn't ignore Warren. He still got targets. It wasn't his game, like you said.
it just didn't work. It didn't work out, unfortunately. And when you throw for what was like 120 yards, if you miss your three targets, you're not going to get anything. And that was one
Yeah,
of those games where the rushing games were just going for both teams. So it was over before it started, you know. And then this one, personally, I blame the Ravens for and whatever the heck's going on with this. But Isaiah likely goosed against the
weird.
Bengals? Like, division games, and I know how much they matter, but I forget to take into account the fact that the Ravens play the Bengals just awfully.
I would have thought that the Ravens would have peppered likely with targets because he was robbed of a touchdown the week before, so they were going to be like, well,
Mhm.
let's prove it, but instead he just got goosed. Yeah, it was very very surprising.
It was a strange game to watch anyways, like, for the first half of the game, Lamar did look bad, and Zay Flowers was a big reason that he looked bad because every time he actually had a pass that looked like it was gonna be completed, Zay would drop it. So the offense is just wasn't hitting on any cylinders,
Yeah.
and at the point where it started clicking, it was just every drive was too important, and Isaiah likely wasn't the person to sign up for it. It was Mark Andrews, and then with Zay started, like, getting his groove back. So I don't know. That's just one of those where, like, the thought process just didn't work out at all, even a little bit. And I know I'm not alone in that choice, so I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Terrible pick though, unfortunate. My controversial sits. This is my other terrible pick. Absolutely the worst. Jameson Williams, who yeah, just that game was everyone scored a bunch.
Except for Gibbs, which again that was shocking.
The Rams just sold out to stop only Gibbs, and
Yeah.
everyone else are like, okay, we'll stop you if we can, and they couldn't. The Rams still somehow win this game 41-34.
I know.
So you wanted to play Jameson Williams, especially if you were my opponent, which he did, and it hurt. And then RJ Harvey, that one is like 10.5. So he had a mid game. Not the worst sit ever, not the sit you necessarily want, I assume, out of your RB2 slot. So, eh,
Mediocre.
eh. Last week hurt me personally on a lot of levels. So this is just another one of those levels.
I did not have a good week either. So my two nuclear boys, one got injured, Devontae Adams. He wasn't having the best game before that, but he definitely still could have gotten a touchdown and put up like 15 points. So it wasn't terrible. Definitely not nuclear. My other nuclear boy was Devani Chan, who just, he just is.
The Steelers defense shows up every once in a while and then they don't other time. Like what is the Steelers defense? What is going on with this team?
I'll tell you what they are. They're the highest paid defense in the league. So,
That sucks.
my gas guys, Ashton Genty had a Ashton Genty game. It's pretty mid.
Yeah.
One that surprised me that I flopped hard on is Tet McMillan. I don't know why Tet wasn't involved. Jalen Coker was the guy. So we were right about that. I just figured Tet would be more involved. I do expect him to bounce back this week, but it's just kind of. I think that was kind of an anomaly. That was a weird game. Why did the Panthers lose that? I don't know. Jesus Christ.
These division games, there are certain teams that just have each other's numbers, like the Bengals with the Ravens, like we were just talking about. The Saints,
They beat this Panthers earlier this year too. Yeah.
they just know how to win against this Panthers team. Yeah.
This Panthers Broncos game is going to be good though because they haven't played each other yet, and we don't really know what it's going to look like.
You mean the Panthers Bucks? Yeah, that will be
Yeah,
phenomenal. And since they both lost, they're like this is the division right here.
yeah, I'm excited. It'll be good.
Mhm.
Um, my gut check starts. Ricky Pearsall had a pretty good game. Very solid flex play. He's out again. Whatever.
He showed up for you one last time. And he's like,
one last time on my bench. Marcus Mariota had an okay QB2 flex. Yeah, whatever, he's decent enough. Keyshawn Booty was not. He was pretty. He was pretty much his surname this week. I did hit pretty hard on my controversial sits though. Michael Pittman, Colts did not go through him at all. David Montgomery, 32 yards total, 3.2 fantasy points. Not good. And this one's kind of a cop out because he got hurt, but Christian Watson also was not a good start. So I hit there.
okay, so let's talk about this week. I'll start off with my nuclear boys. My first one, I'm going back to the well of things that we know, and I'm going to play Michael Wilson, Swole Mike, against the Falcons because Marvin Harrison's not going to play. I don't care what happens. Marvin Harrison's not going to play. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
So Michael Wilson, you can make an argument that like Trey McBride's their wide receiver one. That's fine, whatever. As far as actual role, Michael Wilson's the wide receiver one, and the Falcons don't know how to stop wide receiver ones right now. And we've already seen Brissett and Michael Wilson. There's no shock here. This is going to be a great game for him.
If Brissett is still passing an average of 40 times a game, there can easily be two wide receiver ones in fantasy, which would be Wilson and McBride. So
yeah, then again, the Falcons just they give up points to the wide receiver one. And gosh, Michael Wilson being as a nuclear boy at this point of the year is crazy. My second one is Chris Olave, who we've talked a lot about. For that reason, the running game of the Saints is dead. It doesn't exist. It's buried under the ground multiple times at this point. Uh, Devon Vele, he's hurt. The Jets aren't good enough to just focus all on one player and actually stop him, especially not a player who's been as consistent as Chris Olave with the skill set that Chris Olave has. And Shooks look good.
Yeah,
I'm in on it. If you have Chris Olave, fire him up. I think he is going to have a consistently good, but better than his consistently good game, which is like 20 to 25 points.
what you're saying is he's going to have a nuclear game.
Exactly.
There
Exactly.
we go.
He's been an awesome player for you this season, and I think this is where like it'll really pay off. This is his blow up game.
I'm curious to see where he goes in fantasy drafts next year because he's like wide receiver 8 on the season. So I don't. I
It'll
wonder.
probably still be third, fourth round, just because
Yeah,
people when we drafted him earlier, it just didn't pay off.
I was pretty low on him, but I was wrong.
It's crazy.
Um, my nuclear boys this week. One is kind of an obvious one, but he's not been nuclear recently, and I think he will this week. That's Jonathan Taylor. I think the Colts going up against the Niners, injured run defense in prime time. I think that I think Rivers is going to pass for more yards, and it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be a better offense this week, but I think that they're still going to really lean on the run, and I see JT going back to his highs this week. And then my ever nuclear boy, I thought about putting Bijan here, but I didn't want to do two running backs, so went ahead and put Drake London. It looks like he's back, and I could see Kirk like. I mean, Kirk could hyper target Kyle Pitts again, but I don't know. I got a gut feeling there's going to be a really big game for London. We've seen it before with Kirk, without Kirk. Uh, and yeah, they're going up against the Cardinals. So
This makes sense to me.
yeah,
All right, we'll move on to gas guys, unless you have another nuclear boy.
no, that's it.
Okay, perfect. We'll move on to gas guys. My first one here is a Vikings running back that everyone should probably have or probably has forgotten exists at this point. But I'm going to say Aaron Jones is going to have a great game against the Giants. And this is because Aaron Jones is a player who is good, and he's going against a defense that is bad. It's that simple.
Yes.
JJ McCarthy, for what it's worth, has an opportunity to shred a defense here, but even then, Aaron Jones can still get involved if they decide to try to work on his ability as a passer, because Aaron
Mhm.
Jones is a wonderful pass catching back. So I see Aaron Jones scoring some serious points in this game. Um,
I like it.
yeah, which is again, it's insane. It's not a name I love throwing out there, but this is the exact way I see it going this week. And then the second one is it's Texans player CJ Stroud.
Okay.
Because of all of their running back woes, they're going to beat the Raiders and they're going to beat them handily. And we've seen CJ Stroud. He's looked better actually, in my opinion. Like last week, he looked pretty good. And this is another one. Like the Raiders is the perfect team to figure out how to run your offense against. Uh, I don't care if it's Higgins. I don't care if it's Noel. I don't care if it's Collins. It's going to be a little bit of all of them. They're going to run free. The Raiders defense is broken. They want to lose games. Trust me. And CJ Stroud is going to have himself a couple touchdowns.
I agree with your take earlier this year that, or a few weeks ago, that the Texans are a sneaky Super Bowl team. I've done like a lot of like uh, matchup projections and stuff, and like honestly, their defense is so good. And if CJ Stroud really comes on like he did his rookie year, sky's the limit. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good get right game for the Texans offense.
He looked, in my opinion, really good against the Cardinals. And I know the Cardinals aren't exactly like the most difficult team to look good against, but his passes were crisp. He was making decisions that made sense. Just something we haven't seen from him in a while, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we've seen the potential there.
Oh yeah.
So you get the Cardinals game, and you get to go into the Raiders game. You get that confidence back. You get that O line a little bit more gelled up because there's no pass rush on either of these teams. This is where I see it turning around. So I think CJ Stroud is going to have a great game. If your quarterback situation is really shaky all of a sudden, which if you have Patrick Mahomes, it is, CJ
Hmm.
Stroud might be out there on waivers, and he might be someone you pick up play.
I like it. I like it. My guest guys, some we already talked about. I'm gonna double down on Tet McMillan being a great receiver start rest of the season. I think that last week was a fluke. It's another divisional game against the Bucks, but we've just seen some blow up games from him before. And like I said, offensive rookie of the year favorite still, must win game. Like it just has to happen.
Mhm.
So expect a big game from Tet. He doesn't like to be called Tet. It's T Mac, right? I
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah. T Mac or just
okay. So
Tetaroa.
okay, so he doesn't like Tet. I thought he didn't like T Mac. Okay, got it. So a big game from Tetaroa. The other gas guy I already talked about him is Jaden Reed. I still like him even if Watson starts. His upside is just capped. And then the last one, it's kind of gross, but going back to what I said a few weeks ago, I think it comes to fruition this week after having not for multiple weeks. Is Quinshawn Judkins being a top 5 back? I think against the Bills in Cleveland, it's going to be a cold game. Winning games doesn't matter for them, but they're not going to be passing. It's going to be really cold. And the Bills really just can't stop the run. Like we've seen it week in, week out. Um, the Bills often win their games statement. They often win their games, but even in their competitive games, like there's been some blowouts, but most of it, the because the Bills have been putting up a lot of numbers on offense, which I absolutely think James Cook is, he's going to have a nuclear week as well. But the Bills still allow a lot of points from every single team. There's
Do
not a
you
lot of.
think that Miles Garrett gets the sack record against Josh Allen?
That's the one thing I'm less sure of. I think he could tie it. I think he just needs one sack. I don't know. It's hard to say. Allen, I feel like he's just going to be handing off to James Cook so much in the cold that it makes sense that he's not going to be he's not going to be dropping back to pass very much, but it could happen. I will believe anything that Miles Garrett can do. He can.
Quinshawn Judkins hurts me so much because in the first round of playoffs, man, he really came out flat in a game that he should have had all. He had all the opportunity in the world to do well in, but he just couldn't break past a 2-yard run ever.
The Bears, like their defense, they're really elite at getting takeaways and stopping certain factors of a game. Like Dennis Allen, like he switches it up every week. Sometimes he's great against the run and not against the pass, but he's like great against the run, and sometimes he's great against the pass and he allows a lot of yards. It's fluky, but I think the Bills have consistently been pretty terrible against the run. So I would fire up Quinshawn this week.
All right, let's move into gut check starts. I'm going to start with one that was definitely a lock prior to a benching. I'm going with Darren Waller, and that is even with Ewers playing. Mike McDaniel himself came out and said that they should have gotten Darren Waller involved earlier in the game to keep it more competitive.
Yeah.
Darren Waller has looked good when he's been playing this season, and they're going against the Bengals. And he's not going to forget that. He's not going to be like, I benched Tua, and now this player that I said should have got involved earlier, we're not going to get him involved. Darren Waller is going to be involved in this game. He's going to have a wonderful game. If you picked him up for this week, still play him this week. I know it feels riskier and it feels a little bit like it is scary when you have a new quarterback come in. And of course, I recognize that this is the same trap I fell in with Tyler Warren last week, but here we are.
Quinn Ewers just has so much more passing upside than Philip Rivers. Like,
yeah,
again, and apparently that not only are they benching Tua, but they're starting Ewers over Wilson, which has to show some confidence in him. And like Ewers is a former 5-star who just kind of fell out of a loop at Texas, but like at one point he was considered the best quarterback prospect in the nation.
Yeah.
So he definitely has that potential. And if they're starting him, that says something. And I think a tight end is a good safety blanket too.
And just, I've said it every single week. You can't ignore the Bengals' historic
Yeah.
incompetence against the tight end. You shouldn't, anyways.
Exactly.
So yeah, Darren Waller is the first one, and then I'm going back to Jalen Coker.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like to say anything about the way Tetaroa is going to score because the pie in this game, in theory, should be big enough for both of them. So I think Jalen Coker is going to have an excellent game. This game against the Buccaneers is going to be high scoring because they're both going to come and try to sell out because this is their competition to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Forget about wild card. It doesn't matter. This is a Bucks versus Panthers. They get to play each other twice in the upcoming few weeks. They're going to sell out everything to win this game. And Jalen Coker is, come on. He's going to be a big part of this passing game. If they can have both Coker and Tetaroa clicking at the same time, this offense will look really good. And I think they're going to focus on keeping Jalen there while also getting Tetaroa mixed back in as the wide receiver one. So I think Jalen Coker has a great game.
I think him and Tetaroa in if things break right, I think they absolutely could coexist. It's not
100%.
one or the other. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I just love seeing that Coker is a thing. People were right about him, and it just took forever. Who are your gut checks?
These are mostly guys we've already talked about, but I do have Joe Burrow as a gut check.
Okay.
I know usually he wouldn't be here, but he was just so bad last week. I just think that was an anomaly. I think that you can start him with confidence. I am. Hopefully he doesn't sell me out, but um, I like Burrow this week. Come back against the Dolphins. Could be a shootout. Unfortunately for the Bengals, but it could be. Colby Parkinson. I almost put him in gas guys, but I'm going to keep him in gut check just because he's on so many waivers. Pick him up, start him with some confidence. I think if Adams is out, which he should
Mhm.
be. And then the other one here, I had Luther Burden. He might not be playing, so I think even if Rome is in, I think Burden, regardless, start him. If he's playing, start him. So he could be considered a gut check. I might pivot to Colston Loveland here though, just because he's being started. I think in less leagues than Burden. Um, Maybe I could be wrong about that, but a Bears receiver that or pass catcher is going to be better than usual this week. We'll say that.
Fair. I'm gonna talk about Joe Burrow again just for a quick second. So one thing is that Joe Burrow said, "I need to make football fun again. It needs to be fun, over and over again." I think an Ohio quarterback in December traveling to Miami might make things a little bit more fun.
I agree. I like it.
This isn't good. That's not analysis that you pay for, but there it is. It's there anyway. Okay, we'll move on to the controversial sits.
I'd,
I'm gonna package.
I'd rather hang out in the middle of December. I'd rather be in Miami than Baltimore, Maryland.
Gosh,
Jesus.
no joke. Seriously. Um, Controversial sits. I'm gonna package my first two. Because there's one of them you're not gonna sit no matter what. I know that. Even when I say his name here, you're not gonna sit him, and you shouldn't probably. But I'm going to tell you be wary about him. But the first one is Ashton Genty. If I have another running back that's even like a capable running back too, I'm playing him over Genty this week. This is bad. This is nasty. You don't. The second one is Brock Bowers. I don't want anything to do with this Raiders offense. I don't think you can bench Brock Bowers honestly. But if like let's say you have who's a tight end that you could even sneak in there.
Well, I think Loveland or maybe Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, because the Texans defense is seriously good, and the Raiders offense is seriously bad. And even if you're funneling directly to one player, this could just result in a bunch of pick sixes. Um,
Yeah, if Gino's starting again, yeah,
yeah, and it looks like Gino will be starting again. Like Pete already said, if he's back, he's starting. And it's not like Kenny Pickett showed anything. And there's no hope right now on that team. There's zero hope. The hope is gone. It's left the building. Um,
my only pushback, and I think that this could go both ways because it could mean the Texans really adjust to this. But I mean, Trey McBride against the Texans defense as a tight end just put up like almost 40 points.
yeah,
So I mean, Bowers has the talent to do that as well. But I do wonder, I think, again, if the Texans really pivot to covering the tight end more than they did last week. So
I can hear that, and I think that would in a world that makes sense because I think Brock Bowers has the talent to make it make sense. However, there's no talent in the wide receiver position at all for this team.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's true.
so there, I don't see any reason why the Texans don't just sell out to stop Bowers and Genty and say, "Screw it, beat us with Jack Besh. Do it. I dare you. I
Yeah,
triple dog dare you." Like it's Dante Thornton and Jack Besh because even Tyler Lockett is injured.
I
There's
think I think they're smart enough and well coached enough team, but they're gonna recognize that and
no,
yes, stop those two players specifically.
yeah. Okay, my third player that's not Raiders related is I'm out on Derrick Henry this week because I think that the Patriots in prime time are going to attempt to not let Derrick Henry beat them.
Hmm.
They are going to make Lamar, who has looked shaky and pretty bad, and the pass catching core they have, beat them. This is the one reason why I am in on Lamar is because I think they're going to say, "Hey, fine, you're going to be the one who does it, though. Even if you've
Yeah,
been bad these last few weeks, it's going to have to be you because we are going to stop this run game. We're not going to let Derrick Henry tear us up." Um, Typically, these cold weather games are where Derrick Henry would shine, but I think that this is going to be the Lamar game, and I don't see unless Derrick Henry scores a couple touchdowns, I don't see him scoring a very respectable total this week.
I could see Derrick Henry having 18 carries for 75 yards, which in real life isn't bad, but in fantasy, that's 7.5 points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I really think they sell out to stop Derrick Henry. Like they're going to say, "All right, Mark Andrews, the aged wonder. He's not an ageless wonder. He's an aged wonder." And Zay Flowers, the guy who is the most inconsistent receiver that I've seen in a long time. He's basically Hollywood Brown recreated on the same team.
Really is. Yeah, they switched. Yeah, I agree.
And they're gonna say, "Yeah, you guys beat us." And I don't know that they will beat them. I think that there's a chance, and I do know that Lamar will pull together whatever he can, even if it looks ugly. He'll do something. And so, anyways, that's it. Derrick Henry.
All right, you probably have to start him, but I agree with your logic that he's not going to have a great game.
Yeah, I named 3 players. I'm sure you almost have to start anyways. Unfortunately, I would just pivot to higher upside elsewhere if you could.
That's where I'm looking at with my first controversial sit is you probably do have to play him. I mean, he could have a good game because we talked about Minshew hyper targeting him, but I think there's a lot of better upside plays at tight end than Kelsey this week. Like I would rather play Harold Fannin, Colby Parkinson, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. I'd play all those guys ahead of Kelsey this week. So
Oh, I love that you just said Warren because we got a question that's regarding Warren.
this is a great question. Would you start Parkinson over Warren this week? And it's great because I really wanted Parkinson off my waivers and I didn't get him. And I was considering starting him over Warren. This is a hard one because, okay, actually, I want your thoughts first, Nick.
Oh, me and Tyler Warren, we got some personal beef right now because my belief in this man lost me a week that I needed to win. Um, with that said, yeah, I don't think until I don't now that I've seen the Philip Rivers experience, I don't really trust it as far as production goes because there's not enough yardage to go around to feed everybody. So you're
Yeah,
really hoping for that touchdown. You know what I mean? There's no PPR, the yardage scoring. It is whoever gets the touchdown has a good week, and whoever doesn't is going to have a mediocre to bad week.
yeah,
I don't trust it enough to be Warren over anyone else. Whereas with Parkinson, with Adams out and them going against the Seahawks, they're going to need to score points.
yeah.
And
They need that
Parkinson looks to be
red zone.
pretty good. So I'm on Parkinson over Warren.
I will say I am having to start Warren this week most likely. And the one thing about Warren I like more is that if you are down in your fantasy playoffs, at least you can go into Monday night. If you're down 20 points, you can go into Monday night knowing there's still a chance. That'll keep you entertainment wise. It can keep you in it for the week. But I would probably start Parkinson over Warren as well.
Yeah, yeah, it is worth something. Okay, sorry, we cut you off. You were talking about Travis Kelsey.
Oh yeah. So basically, there's just other players like Parkinson. I honestly, even Warren, I would start over Kelsey this week. So I would try and pivot off him if you can. Two more guys I have, just a couple of receivers that have boom or bust weeks. The more consistent one is Rondell Robinson, but the Vikings really shut down receivers, particularly wide receiver ones, and unfortunately, Rondell is the wide receiver one
Yeah,
on the Giants.
yeah.
So I don't see him having one of his big games this week at least. And then my last one, I kind of went back and forth here because it really depends on who the Broncos view as the wide receiver one on the Jags. I think I'm just going to pivot to the one that has shown more volatile play. Jacoby Myers has been very consistent, at least, and Brian Thomas Jr. has not. So I would not rely on a big game from Brian Thomas Jr. this week. I would look elsewhere. Like I would start someone like a Jaden Reed over BTJ this week.
Yeah, and that the Broncos passing defense has looked just as good as it always did. They're
Yeah,
impressive. So it can't be understated. Liam Cohen is proving to be a good coach. He's revitalized the passing attack to a point, but it's still when you go against a defense this good, it's going to be rough.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So we're at the 2 hour mark. So I'm gonna say this is we did pretty good here. Um, is there anyone else you want to talk about before we
No,
move on?
I guess I just want to mention Puka Nakua. Just he really needs to get it in. He really needs to get it in check. If you're hanging out with Aiden Ross, you are just really pathetic, and he's just giving off like I don't know. Someone said that he went to BYU, so he didn't get to have a college experience. So now he's acting like a college kid in the NFL. But I don't know. He's just
Yeah, it's it's just one of those things. Like, it's always been a meme that the wide receiver ones are divas. It's just is the thing. But it's been a meme because it's been true. And Puka didn't seem like that dude for a long time. He's morphing into that guy, and that it
what
comes with the territory for some reason.
what really concerns me with him though is that he's that type of wide receiver one like Antonio Brown, who was like really overlooked and then got drafted like day 3
Mhm.
and then blew up into arguably, the best receiver in the league. There's a parallel there, but I just don't like. There's that extra ego that's like, oh, I need to prove myself. I've proven myself. Like, I don't know.
The I think the good part about that comparison is that Antonio Brown also had a lot of legal issues in college that were overlooked because he was good at football.
Part of why he wasn't drafted early. Yeah,
Yeah. Whereas I don't know that that's true with Puka with the injuries, but like Puka, you gotta stop selling your teammates out, man. You can't just and by that I mean like the live streaming thing. Look,
just
we're live streaming right now, so I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say that it's overlooked, but I am gonna say this: don't do it where people are changing clothes.
yeah. Like I'm live streaming in my room with my cat. If Devonte Adams was butt naked next to me, I wouldn't be live streaming with him now. Just saying.
I well, we'd probably get some extra followers. I bet.
Probably maybe not
That's
the kind.
not the right way to do it, though. See, this is what I'm talking about, Puka. You have that thought, and then you have to go. That's wrong, though. Don't do that
Yeah,
because you can't, man. It's just not right. It's not right.
it's
But
not.
also asking to get Aiden Ross in and then being told flat out no by the Rams, that's somehow leaking. That's a bad sign. That's bad,
Good for
especially after everyone asked you to stop filming in the locker room.
good for McVay shutting it down too. I also
Mhm.
heard there was some legal stuff with Puka's brother, like stealing a car recently or something weird. I didn't. That just dropped tonight, so maybe I'll look into it. But it's just weirdness.
It always worries me when you hear about all this weird stuff coming out after a player gets, he collapses on the ground for cramps. I'm not a doctor. Maybe that's what cramps look like, but to me, it looked like a guy who just had gotten his bell rung and fell down, and then comes back in and pushes through it, and he's acting kind of crazy because those head hits, man. Sometimes they hit wrong.
The less bell ringing, the better. I'll say that.
Hmm. Hmm. Anyways, if you have Puka, play him. Doesn't matter. Go ahead, have fun. Uh, Past that, for everyone this is applicable to, have fun. Week 16. Good luck. I hope you win your playoffs. For everyone like me who was listening for the Willie's advice about what to do next year, I hope you gathered something from that as well. It's a gold mine, let me tell you. You may not understand it yet, but it is a gold mine. Uh, Past that, doink out.
Doink out.